What is up, health enthusiasts? It's Coach Lamby here for Working Weights LLC, your guide to strength, health, and all things nutrition. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Dwayne Ulrich, aka Poppy Dwarrell.
Hey guys.
And today we are talking about eating the bugs. All right, Dwayne. We're going to talk about eating the bugs, man.
Keep talking.
Initial thoughts? Any thoughts?
I think it's a texture thing for me.
It's a texture thing.
I'm sure there's proteins in there, but dude,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen this a couple times on people's Facebook pages and some Instagram stuff. So Tyson Foods, one of the biggest meat producers, is investing in insect protein. And so just for, the listener, everybody out there. So I don't have a whole talk lined up on this thing today. So this is just going to be kind of our initial thoughts on this thing. And I thought it might be fun just to play around with this and see. So I know there's a lot of people out there who there's a conspiracy thing about this, about eating the bugs too, right? Is they're trying to get everybody to live in the quote unquote they trying to get everybody to live in the pods and eat the bugs. I don't know that I completely buy into that. What are your thoughts?
No, I don't. I don't buy
Yeah.
into that hardly at all. And I mean, I'll say this. This is because I've never eaten a bug, not on purpose. I mean, my dad was driving his truck down the road one time, and I was in the bed, and the bed of the truck, just standing up, looking over the cab of the truck, and I was talking to my sister, and I looked over, and my mouth was still open, and a June bug flew down my throat, and
Mm-hmm.
tasted like tar. And I think from that point on, I'm like, I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah.
However, I have several friends of mine who were in the military, um, uh, several of them who were pilots in the Air Force. And when they do their what is this? SEER training?
Yeah.
Is that
Sear.
SEER training? And so they're out there, and they're out there. They didn't have any food, and they were taught like you could eat this, you could eat that, you could eat this, a lot of plant things, and then they told them which insects were edible and which insects had proteins and so forth. And so they told them, said, don't come back unless you try out some bugs. And so a couple of my friends that did this training, they said, "Yeah, yes." So I ate a couple of grasshoppers, and I said, "How was that?" It was kind of weird. I pulled the legs off because I just couldn't texturize that being in there. He
Mm.
said, "But you just kind of close your eyes and crunch it down because you're hungry and you got to eat it." And it wasn't that bad for them. I don't think I'd want to make that a complete full diet. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of talk about it on television, incorporating things like crickets or whatever
Mm-hmm.
into a patty, for a burger.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not there yet, just yet. So, but there is protein to be had. Yeah.
There is protein to be had. Yeah. So the SEER, SERE, not SEAR for people out there. So stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. I did not
Right.
go through SEER school. I did do a high altitude survival thing, and I always just have kind of been interested in the survival, wilderness survival aspect of stuff. So I have eaten some bugs in my life. Yeah, now
Not too
just
not too long ago either.
not too long ago. Yeah, just picking them right out of nature. It's not super tasty. I will say that like a large grasshopper kind of roasted over a flame, though,
That could
not
happen.
not actually terrible. It kind of tastes like peanuts, I will say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but they do sell crickets. You can buy them and they come seasoned or whatever.
Yeah.
Honestly, those aren't terrible. to eat. Lots and lots of cultures around the world. So even if you just hop the border between where you are and where I am over to Mexico,
Yeah.
you will find a scorpion
No.
is kind of a delicacy down there. So
Nah.
are crickets, so are
Now.
grasshoppers, and
So
some
my
other things. Yeah.
question. So my question is this though: is we don't know a whole lot, or at least the general public doesn't know a whole lot about the body structure or the protein values of insects,
Mm.
or do insects carry what disease do they carry, or any what bacteria, what else is going on in there that could potentially hurt us? Anything? We don't know.
Well, we do actually know quite a bit
Okay,
about that.
I don't know. So
So,
general,
yeah,
as the
so the
everyday
general, yeah, I
ombudsman,
guess
I
you're
don't
right there.
know.
Yeah, you're correct. The general person, um, yeah, I think going into like the arguments against this stuff, number one, I can see people um have an issue with like ground up crickets being put into their flour or into their foods, and it's kind of like not being labeled, right? The front of the package doesn't say this includes crickets.
Right.
It's under some other name, and it's the Latin word for that particular species of cricket. Starts with a C. I forget what it is. So I can definitely see that point. Uh, and there's like the icky factor to it,
Yeah.
which I think is probably people's biggest thing is just the gross factor. Like they just have a you just have a hard time thinking about eating an insect.
Well, and
Um,
another aspect there too is we only think about the crunchies.
yeah.
So there are things like grubs.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
Yeah. The grubs are not delicious, I will say.
oh, have you had one?
Um, yeah, yeah.
That looks nasty. Okay.
It's yeah, it's not delicious. Yeah, I think what we're getting in the food supply is mostly going to be the the hard-bodied ones. So would be like, well, I pulled up this article here on the Tyson Foods and their partnership with Protix, and Protix, they are a company, you've probably seen them on the label for like fish food and lizard food, stuff like that. And so they deal mainly with like mealworms and crickets and stuff. So these are insects that are grown in a controlled environment. So they don't develop the types of bacteria and other, carry a bunch of diseases that you would find on other things, on bugs
Mhm.
out in nature. So even like when they use cockroaches for TV shows, movie props and stuff, those cockroaches have been bred and grown in a controlled environment, and so they're free of the diseases. So that's why people can you can have them on set and people can handle them and stuff, is because they are grown and controlled in those
Good,
sorry, grown
good
in
to
a
know.
controlled environment. Yeah,
Good to know. I've seen where those people. I've seen where those things have been. I'm not. So
yeah.
that's good to know that at least they're
So
controlled.
yeah, so when it comes to the insects that we have for our pet foods, it's the same standards because you're going to be so we have a fish, we have a beta fish. His name is butterfly, and we feed him mealworm every now and then, and so I have a little jar of dehydrated mealworm, and so these companies know you're going to be feeding it to the fish. You are going to be touching the insects and stuff, so they're growing them in controlled environments, and you don't have the bacteria and stuff that's coming from where you would find them in nature. So I think for putting them in the food supply, it's mostly going to be the harder body. You're probably not going to be finding grubs and stuff anytime soon. And I think that goes along the lines of, looking at different cultures. We see them eating insects. It's mostly the harder bodied. So what are they called? Arthropods?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's mostly what it's going to be. And like I get the icky factor. Like it's hard to think about eating that. Um, but also a lot of argument comes from people who will say, well, we should be eating the animals, um, or having an animal based protein because of the history of what we've eaten, right? And so making kind of an appeal to ancestral ways of eating. This is kind of how we've eaten, but not also realizing that, well, our ancestors probably ate a lot of bugs too. I mean, not even probably, they do. They
Yeah.
did. They
Yeah.
ate a lot of
Yeah.
bugs. So, you know, on the basis of like making this an ancestral or an appeal to tradition, uh, eating bugs would be one of the most ancestral things we could do. They're also natural. So,
So, so, so I want to jump in just for a second
yeah.
because this occurred to me. It's um, so in the conversation that we're having about, eating insects,
Hmm.
bugs, creepy crawlers. I had to say that. I'm sorry, but it wasn't that long ago. I mean, historically, people didn't eat crawfish. So a
Yeah.
crawfish or even a shrimp
Hmm.
was kind of insect-ish, especially crawfish. I mean, here in the South, and I don't know about the rest of the country, but here in the South, I mean, we had a where I grew up, we had this pasture out the side of the house, about 20 acres worth of land out there, and there were crawfish all the time. I mean, good hard rain, and next thing you know, you have all little crawfish holes. And I remember even when my kids were young, they'd go out in a big bucket and start picking up crawfish out of the ditch and out of the water. And they said, "Let's eat these." I'm like, "No, we're not eating those." Um, but we do like crawfish, and the concept there is that we cook them, right?
Hmm.
And then there's a technique about how you eat a crawfish. You don't just crunch into the shell of a crustacean like that, or even shrimp. So when people think about eating insects, crickets, grasshoppers, locusts, whatever, um, we all think of that. And I'm not putting that in there because one of the that I was saying earlier about the texture thing is you're not going to put that critter in there live,
Hmm.
and he's fighting to get out of your mouth, and that's not
Hmm.
what we're talking about. We're talking about a processed. Even I mean, I even threw the thing out there about my buddies doing sear training, but and they ate those critters. One of them ate them live, and then the other one took it and he actually put it over a little fire. So, but we were talking about something from a controlled environment, raised in a
Hmm.
controlled environment, and they're not live.
Yeah.
So,
And most of the time, so I pulled up this thing here. So cricket flour, and this is really how you would be getting it. Is they're going to be putting it into flours, um, and using it for processed foods. So it's not, I don't think you're going to be being served whole crickets and grubs. And
right, right,
I doubt that they're really going to be like adding it to chicken and beef and stuff like that. I just don't see
right.
how that would be feasible.
No,
So what makes the most sense is this cricket flour. So you were talking about the nutrition profiles of these. So 65% of this cricket flour by weight. I don't know if it's crickets. Crickets, a complete source of protein nutrition. Eating insects isn't a new idea. We've made it better. Eating insects is more of a rediscovery of ancient and current practices with a modern focus to commercialize this superfood protein source. So 65% protein by weight.
that's a lot.
That is a lot. So this cricket powder here, a serving size is 2 tablespoons, and it's 80 calories and has 11 grams of protein. Now that is pretty calorie dense.
Yeah.
And 11 grams of protein. Let me see. Let me pull up my calculator here. I gotta move our faces.
And while you're doing that, on the bottom of that nutrition fact thing, it says individuals with a crustacean shellfish allergy may be allergic or sensitive to crickets. Hmm.
Yeah, so you were just mentioning shrimp and
Yes.
crawfish. So shrimp, crawfish, and I think crabs and lobsters are also arthropods. So yeah, if you have a
Yes.
shellfish allergy, you could very well be allergic to these cricket protein.
Yes. And but the point being there too, all is putting them in that same category kind of turns down the weird factor of,
Hmm.
of a cricket.
Yeah. Um, yeah, man. So this powder this is cricket flour that we're looking at here. Yeah, so 11 grams of protein for 80 calories. That means that this cricket flour is 13% protein. Wait,
Hmm.
I don't think I did that right. Hold on. So I need calories. So 11, well, it'd be 44. 44 calories. So 44 calories divided by 80 calories times 100 gives us 55%. 55% of the calories in this flour
It's
is coming from
protein.
protein. That's
Yeah.
a
How about
lot.
that? How about that sodium number? Zero.
Zero sodium. Yeah. So let me see. Let me pull up another just to give people an idea here. Let's go. Nutrition info beef. Well, I mean, let me pull the chronometer. Add a food. Let's go beef. Let's go. Sorry, let's go 93% beef. 93% lean. All right, so we have 33.8. Where's my calculator? Guess I X'd it out, huh? So 33.8 times 4 gives us 135.2. 2 divided by 240. So this is that cricket flour is right on par with 93% beef as far as like the percentage of calories from protein.
Wow.
93% ground beef is 56% protein
Wow.
for those calories. And that other, that cricket flour is 90 or 55%. So as a protein source, and, I think the interest in using insects for protein source is just because of the environmental impact that agricultural farming has, across the world. Um, like it does kind of take a lot of land use to produce the amount of animal agriculture that we have. So I think about 80 billion, not to include fish and seafood, 80 billion land animals are killed every year to produce the food availability from animal sources of protein and fat that we have, and we do see reduction in rainforest. There is that impact. So I think the thought of utilizing this as a protein source is kind of an attempt to maybe slow down the amount of land use that's being required. Because what's happening, so not particularly in the United States, but kind of in South America, Africa, and other places where they're slashing and burning forests. And then what they'll do is they'll plant grasses and everything after they cut it down, and then bring in cattle, sheep, or whatever the case may be. And then once that land can no longer be used for grazing pasture, then they'll come and put soybean crops or something on it. And so there isn't uh, an
I don't know that that's.
effort.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't mean. I don't. I'm not sure that that's. I mean, that's a consideration, obviously. But another thing that I'm thinking of that maybe is just a different angle at this is that uh, just the investment in time, food, uh, everything
Hmm.
that goes into raising beef, everything goes into raising chicken, even
Hmm.
farming fish, even our plant-based foods, that the time and effort that it takes to grow those. I'm sorry, growing several thousand crickets. is
Much
not
easier.
is not the investment
Hmm.
that's taken to grow, one cow,
Yeah.
or five chickens. It's just, I mean, it's a faster turnaround time. Their gestation period is much faster. Um, Feeding them is minuscule compared to livestock and so forth. And I think there's a different angle there. I mean, I'm not invalidating the whole, territory and acreage and all of those things you just mentioned. But I think that there's more to that than just that.
Yeah, well, I think that I don't think that those are different angles. I think that those are both. So what you're
part of
talking
the same
about
equation.
is
Part of the
part of the
same
same
equation.
equation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
It takes 16 kilograms of feed to produce 1 kilogram of edible
Of meat. Yes.
beef. We're just talking
Yes.
about beef. And
Yes.
so yeah, so that is a very labor intensive, land intensive, um what's the word? Capital
Yeah.
intensive investment to produce 1 kilogram of protein and fat from a cow.
Right.
So yeah, so the use of bugs to create an alternative protein source, um and I don't think that the effort is like to completely replace animal foods,
Nah.
but it would be to supplement the amount of protein that you're getting, which means that you don't have to eat as much um, animal protein, right?
Yeah.
And so that creates something that possibly could be more sustainable where you still have animal agriculture going on, but we're not so dependent on those protein sources. And I think a bigger aspect of it may be to in providing nutrition relief to poverty-stricken areas. So places where they don't have a high intake of protein, right? So
Hmm.
uh,
Oh,
rural
that's a good
areas of
point.
China,
Yeah.
South Asia, Africa, stuff like that. So the ability to ship cricket flour over there, number one, it's probably going to be cheaper. I don't know what it costs to grow crickets, but probably going to be a lot cheaper. You're probably going
Yeah.
to be able to produce a whole bunch more of it. And so the efforts to increase nutrition for more of those populations is going to be easier rather than, trying to send chicken, because chicken is probably the biggest source of animal protein that people are getting.
Yeah.
And so
I agree.
trying to house, feed, slaughter, process more chickens in an attempt to increase the world's nutrition um, probably just doesn't seem very feasible. So I think that that may be more of an aspect. I honestly don't think that they're trying to hide it from people.
Oh
Like
no, no.
Tyson Foods here. I don't think it's an attempt to just
Oh
world
no, I
domination. The Illuminati's
yeah.
coming for your beef. I don't think that's it.
Yeah. It's like one of the war films where the crickets are coming, the crickets are coming. No,
Yeah,
but and just as an alternative, when we talk about an alternative food source, an alternative protein source, some people, I mean, the first thing that initiates in some people's mind is like replacement. It's not
yeah,
replacement. I mean, even
it's
just
alternative.
look at plant-based proteins. That's an alternative. It's,
Hmm.
and if you blend that, it's we've talked about this in pretty much everything we've done so far, is that that's just a benefit. And so as an alternative, it's another source that you can use. And again, going to third world countries and poverty-stricken areas, I yeah, I think it's a thing. I'm
Yeah, it
not.
could be.
Is that a
Look at these cricket nachos.
is that a cricket larva in there? No, I'm out. I can
It's a
no.
cricket body. Yeah, look at this.
I can go with the flour. I'm not about the.
Cricket bites roasted original.
Uh,
So yeah, I've eaten something like this before. They're actually not bad, man. I mean, it's like
they have that nacho flavor.
I don't know, maybe nachos, yeah. Let's see, they got cricket nachos here, chocolate espresso banana bread. So using this flour. So if you are like I would totally use this flour um in terms of making like alternative recipes. So we already like you have if it fits your macros or flexible dieting out there where you're replacing certain flours. I already use alternative flours. So King Arthur makes a keto flour that's quite high in protein. And I add that to some bread flour, and I forget the other one, but I make pizza dough out of it. And the pizza dough, the just the crust for the pizza I make has almost 25 grams of protein in it because of
That's
this
awesome.
flour alternative. So I would totally use this cricket flour to make pizza dough and bread and some other stuff, man. I mean, like I totally understand not wanting to eat the crickets from the bag. Like I get it. I totally do.
Dude, I think,
The
instead of
cricket flour though, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it.
instead of like Princess House jewelry or Tupperware parties,
Yeah.
we can have a party and do the cricket thing, man.
Uh, oh man.
Oh,
Yeah, look at it.
jeez.
Biscuits. I don't know. That one has bodies in it.
Yeah, it's
I don't
creepy.
I think people
That's
could do, but you could make
yeah,
biscuits with the flour, right? You just add that flour in with some regular flour and make some
yeah,
biscuits. You got the
yeah,
muffins. I don't know. Oh, putting it
yeah.
in a protein shake,
Yeah, I was talking to a
smoothie.
friend of mine the other day about talking about foods like this. Is like his friend of his at work had cooked some, had barbecued some stuff, and he said, "Hey man, you need to try this." He goes, "What is it?" He said, "Just try it. You'll love it." He said, "Try it." It's like, "Oh, it tastes pretty good. What is it? Raccoon?" It was raccoon,
A raccoon?
and yeah,
Yeah.
he's like,
And some
but
wild stuff. I mean,
it
yeah,
didn't. Yeah.
people eat a lot of weird stuff. So I love octopus. I mean, I'm vegan now, but like
Well,
I love octopus. And you eat shrimp and lobster and crab and
yeah,
like there's a
yeah,
lot of weird stuff that people eat.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah, this is one of those weird things where it's kind of like it's
yeah.
weird to
You
think about where we draw the line, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So for you guys out there, so Coach Lamby introduced me to octopus,
Mm.
and because I was like, I'm not eating an octopus ever, and we went to a place just outside of Houston here, and I ate it. It was good. It had a great sauce on it. It was really really good until it got right down to the tip of the tentacle, and I'm like, I can't eat that. It's just a
Oh yeah,
texture thing because
hidden
the
like the crunchy part of it, right?
Yeah, I didn't like the
Yeah.
crunchy part. The meaty part of the tentacle
Yeah.
was very, very good. Had an
It's
awesome
very
sauce
juicy
on
and
it.
succulent and yeah.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. And but I couldn't do the tip where it was crusty and crunchy and yeah, texture thing for me.
Yeah. I'm man, I've eaten all kinds where it's a snake, mountain lion, bear, uh kangaroo,
I thought you weren't supposed
ostrich.
to really eat bear meat. Is it because it's high?
No, you
One of those
can
is which one of those is really high in vitamin D and you can't eat it. You shouldn't eat it.
I'm not sure. I think liver, like most animal liver,
The liver,
yeah,
yes.
you really
Yeah.
should
Don't eat
minimize the
that.
amount you're eating from that because
Yeah.
you can definitely have hypernatremia from that.
Right.
And I think that's more
Yeah.
like a iron and vitamin A
Yeah, 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 yeah,
issue.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so man, I don't know, like eating the bugs. Uh yeah, I think like if it's an attempt to hide it or there's some world domination, which I don't think is really happening because, looking back through the lockdowns and stuff, if they wanted to just outlaw animal agriculture, they could and they would.
Yeah,
It would
absolutely.
happen, right? So,
Yeah.
is there some Illuminati cabal trying to make it force everyone to eat? But I don't think so.
No.
And then from a nutritional standpoint, like, man, it's kind of hard to argue. Like they're very, very nutritionally dense for, the weight. I don't know about the calories when we looked at it. Protein is on par. This flour, cricket flour, protein is on par with 93.7 beef. Um, I don't know what the amino acid breakdown comes to. That'd be something to look into as well. I don't know. I'm probably weirder than most, but like
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
have an issue with it.
well, one of these days, maybe one of our next podcasts or two, we might be sitting here instead of drinking a coffee. I might be just going.
Snacking on some crickets.
Snacking on some crickets.
Yeah. I
Hey,
think
that'll be
that it
something for you guys
may,
to. That could be
yeah.
something for you guys to watch to see. Hey, let's watch today's podcast because I think Poppy Doyle's gonna crunch out on some crickets, man.
Maybe I'm gonna look into this on the vegan aspect of it. So, because my personally, it comes down to sentience, and I don't know that crickets really we could consider them to have sentience. So, like having their own individual subjective experience of life is kind of what that comes down to. So, for me, like um, bivalves, so mussels, oysters, clams, that type of stuff, not sentient. So that's fair game for me to eat. And then certain species of shrimp as well. So we had some shrimp the other night, and my friends kind of like, I don't want to say the word chastise, but it was like, well, wait a minute, I thought you were vegan. And I'm like, well, this fits, right? Because it's not sentient.
Yeah.
So the cricket thing may fit in a vegan thing. So I know that there are some vegans out there where it's more of like they don't want to see animals in general. Oh, what's the word? Starts with an S.
Slaughtered.
Not slaughtered. Um,
Sorry.
yeah. So it really has more to do with. So there are some vegans who are okay with eating bivalves and shrimp and stuff because of the sentience issue, and then there are some who are like, no, we don't want to see that happening because the farming aspect of it. So if you were to farm shrimp and bivalves, the effect that that has on the environment, and then the wild caught stuff still has an impact on like catching turtles and stuff in the nets. So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
against it for that aspect. Forget what it is, but it's basically about uh, exploiting animals, right? And so there may be some part of them in there um, for this is more on the activist side too, of like mass growing crickets and stuff for this food production. For me, I don't know. I don't think that they like seem to have their own subjective experience of the world. So this may fit under veganism for me. Which, if it does, I mean, hey, another protein source.
There you go.
Something I hadn't thought about before.
There you go, man. There you go. Good stuff.
All right. Yeah. I feel this was pretty good.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's cut it off here. Not a super educational podcast like we have done. But I thought it would be fun to just talk about this one kind of off the cuff, especially since we did the lab grown meat thing, which that's one of those things like I wish would become a little bit more available, a little bit faster, because that fits on the definition of veganism as well. So yeah. So all right. Hope somebody out there took something from this.
Mind blown.
Yeah. Dwayne, we blew the mind. Yeah. All right. And send your comments and concerns about eating bugs to Dustin Lambert at workingweights.com. We will see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Coach Lamby and Dwayne out.